Okay, today is the 26th of June 2016, and this video is about a health reading, or at least the first couple of cards in a particular health reading that somebody did. And I want to discuss a couple of ideas in general about what to do when somebody wants a health reading, because a lot of readers just won't deal with health. Even though this is what people want to know about. So what do you do? There are good reasons to not do health readings, if only because you've got the medical profession and you've got, it's well regulated, and you're not supposed to give medical advice if you don't have a medical degree. You need qualifications. It's against the law to give medical advice if you don't have the qualifications. So, and that's probably true everywhere. So it may be that we're asking for trouble if we use tarot cards for giving medical advice. So there are good reasons to just basically have a policy that you don't do health readings. On the other hand, people get desperate, they get disappointed, they get confused about health matters. You know, because you can go to a doctor and a specialist, and just because you go to a specialist, it doesn't mean they're going to find out what's wrong or what isn't working correctly. So what do you do if somebody has been to specialists and doctors and nobody knows what the problem is, but they want to know what the problem is? Do you turn them away? Do you say you can't do, that you basically don't do health readings? Or maybe they've paid for specialty treatment that's supposed to work, but it hasn't worked, right? So they're stuck, but they still want help, or they want to make sense of what's going on, and they want some kind of indication of the best thing to do to get some kind of relief. Or maybe a doctor, in an extreme circumstance, a doctor says there's nothing can be done. So what do you do? So I'm not recommending that anybody does health readings, and I don't know. I'm not a medical doctor, and I don't know much about the ins and outs of the body and how it functions and what symptoms indicate what problems and what medication works with what other medication, what is contraindicated and all the rest of it. But if somebody is suffering or they're unhappy and they're not getting anywhere with conventional or alternative medicine, maybe using the tarot, we can at least put their mind at ease and give them some insight and hope for the future. So maybe it depends what you mean by a health reading, but maybe it's a legitimate use of cards to see what we can do to maybe uncover something that has been covered and give people some kind of help so they can make the most of the situation that they're in. You can find specialty health spreads. And somebody asked me what I would do, and I think I would approach it with a past, present, and future spread. But you look at the cards that you have and you interpret them from the point of view of how to live generally in harmony with yourself and with other people. Right? So an upright card would show what's going well or what to do, and a reverse card would show what isn't working or what to avoid or what to stop doing, as a general rule. So let's say you get the Three of Cups upright. So that can be an indication to look for reasons to celebrate. Let's say somebody has a medical or a health problem and you get the Three of Cups upright. So what do? Look for reasons to celebrate, be happy, and maybe think about having a gratitude list, which is something that lots of people recommend. So you figure out what you're grateful for and what makes life worth living, and you put it on a list and you contemplate that list daily, and it sort of gets you into a better frame of mind. So maybe have a gratitude list from the Three of Cups, or maybe the advice is simply stop looking at the dark side. Yes, things are difficult, but there's good as well. So stop looking just in the dark side, but enjoy life and living. And because it's the Three of Cups and the women are celebrating, spend time with people who have a good attitude as well. Right? Because if you're unhappy or miserable, there's nothing worse. Well, there can be things worse, but it's not a good idea to hang around with depressed and miserable people. Okay, so with the Three of Cups reversed, however, that can be saying, Stop drowning your sorrows. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stop going over what went wrong and remembering and contemplating what hasn't worked out. It didn't work out. So don't do the same thing again and expect a different outcome. But instead, make small or large changes and then see what happens this time around. So we can look at cards generally and get an idea of how the questioner can make improvements in their life situation. So we may not give them a cure for the illness that they've got, but we can maybe help bring about a healing, right? So they may have the same symptoms, but they can enjoy life and get an awful lot done that's important to them. So the specific health reading that the person did, it was for somebody with back pain who wasn't getting any relief from various medics, and he was tired of suffering. And you can understand that. So the spread that was used had 7 cards, and I wanted to discuss the first one that was chosen, and it was the reverse Queen of Cups. And it's supposed to reflect the condition of the illness that's being experienced, the first card in this particular layout. So I would like to consider the Queen of Cups reversed as well as the significator card that the reader chose, and it was the Two of Pentacles. And choosing the significator is meant to describe how the questioner's current personality is affecting the health. So that was the instruction. I'm not sure what that actually means. And I'd like to make a general point at this moment about spreads. And it's not easy to create a spread because I've said this before, it might sound okay, but when you think about it, it can be impossible, very difficult, if not impossible, to know for sure what the different positions are getting at in any kind of clear way. But I'll leave that for the moment. So, the reader said about the significator card, that was the Two of Coins, that the questioner can be juggling too much in life at the moment, and this is the reason for the back pain. A bit like a dog chasing its tail and getting nowhere fast. So that causes aggravation that manifests in pain in the back. So I think it's important to remember with a reading that it's a step-by-step process. Okay, you turn a card, then another one, and it's step-by-step. And we can get off track with ourselves as readers if we turn the first card and expect to know everything about the whole spread and about the whole answer. And we turn that card and we're sure of a definitive answer to the question. So instead, what we do is look at the first card and think about what it might be showing. It's a start. It's just the start. And we have to trust that this card is the one that we're supposed to begin with, even if we make certain statements at the beginning and we end up with different statements. That was the process that we're involved in. So you don't have to turn that first card and use only it. Okay? It's a process. So the reader said that the woman was maybe juggling too much. And we can see the sense of what the reader said, because the picture can show somebody having to concentrate on keeping the coins in the air. And he or she is standing on one foot. So it looks like the questioner has a narrow focus and maybe has forgotten to put both feet on the ground to give an easier or more solid foundation. So we have to remember that the questioner can be off balance as we examine the rest of the cards. Also, coins represent or can represent money. So it may be with this Two of Pentacles that part of the reason for the back pain is that maybe the questioner is having to juggle finances right now. And this can be stressful, as you may know. And that can be, having to juggle finances can be adding to the weight on her shoulders, and that can put added pressure on her back. That's one way of looking at that Two of Pentacles. So let's say you get the Two of Pentacles and you think, okay, money worries. You can actually ask the questioner, are you having difficult financial pressure at the moment? And if they say yes, you can then discuss what to do about it. Or instead of asking questions, you can keep the thought in your mind that maybe there are financial difficulties. So as you look through the other cards, you're looking for them to give you direction on what the questioner can do to get their finances onto a solid ground. And maybe fixing the financial situation will ease the pressure, and that will mean that she doesn't feel the pain in the back to the same extent. Cards can also represent values, however, as I'm very pleased to say regularly. So it may be that the questioner isn't sure what direction to go in generally in life. Or maybe she's involved in activities that go against her nature or that she's not happy with. And this doesn't have to be anything dramatic. It can simply be that maybe the partner wants to go out and socialise and she would rather stay home and read a book. Right? So her values are staying home and study, let's say. His values, or the partner's values, are socialise and go out and meet people. And this can cause a conflict. So again, we can ask the question for feedback. Do you have values that are different from the people you live with? Or we can keep this in mind and see if the cards in the spread throw light on the questioner's values and how the values can be acknowledged and honoured. Because once you know what you care about, you're supposed to do something about it and recognise that this is what you actually want, this is what you care about, and then do something about it or do something with it instead of putting it on a shelf and ignoring it. Okay, so this first card that the reader got that shows the condition being experienced was the reverse Queen of Cups. And if you look at the card, she looks quite intense and passionate, right? So in its cups, and these cups represent love and romance, for instance. So this Queen of Cups can indicate that she was involved with other people, but it's reversed. So something isn't quite right. So maybe she's giving more than she gets to other people. So the reader looked at that Queen of Cups reversed, the intensity, the passion of the Queen of Cups. And because it was reversed, she said, the questioner was bottling up her emotions and becoming quite stressed, right? So if you're not investing enough time in yourself, and if you're doing too much for other people, as it looked like the questioner was doing, the back pain can increase. So the advice that the reader gave was recharge yourself emotionally and physically. And that makes sense for the card, or given the card for this question. So I'd like to suggest a method for presenting the analysis of the card to the questioner. And what you do is you explain from the picture and you lead up to the meaning, or you lead up to the interpretation. And in this way, the questioner can make his or her own sense of the information you're giving them, and they can provide the details. So you can start with the Suit of Cups and say cups hold water or fluid, so they can represent the emotions or love. And the Queen is somebody who's in charge because she's the Queen, but the card is upside down. So with the Queen upright, she's controlling her emotions. Upside down, the emotions are controlling the person instead of the other way around. So if you take this approach and show how you are arriving at the conclusion, right? In this case, your emotions are controlling you. Instead of giving the person a punchline and saying you're stressed because your emotions are controlling you, then if you build up to it, the questioner can follow along and make their own sense of it as you go. So if you lead up to it by saying the Queen is reversed, so your emotions are controlling you, the questioner can think, that's right. I do get scared and my fear controls me, though when I face it, I find it isn't as bad as I thought it would be. Or maybe they think, my emotions control me. That's right. I do get excited and madly enthusiastic about certain things, but when I do that, I forget about the normal boring things I have to do. So I end up with problems because I let things slide. So the reader doesn't need to know if the emotions that are controlling are fears or excitement. And it can be both at different times. But the card, the Queen of Cups reversed in this case, is pointing out what's going on with the person, or what the tarot is shown to be important, or what the tarot is pointing to for consideration first. Or we can see it as step 1. Consider the Queen of Cups reversed. Or maybe it's part 1 of the answer. Or it's the first thing you're supposed to deal with. Get your emotions under control. Or maybe it's the first step on the road. So maybe what is meant to, with the Queen of Cups reversed, first thing you're meant to do is recognize that it's not good for you right now to let your emotions control you. So because the question is about back pain and a medical condition, the emotion controlling the person is probably negative, right? So let's say it's fear. And then the reader thinks about, what do you do about fear? Okay, you can't just say, don't be afraid, because that doesn't mean anything when you're afraid. You have to be told something about how and why fear arises. And you have to be educated a bit about what's going on when we do get afraid. And for this questioner, when we remember the significator card, which was the 2 of coins, it might be indecision, like the balancing. That is the indecision is the basis of the fear or the doubt. So if we can get the questioner to know her values, then she can commit to a way of acting, and then she can be decisive, which is going to give her some control over her emotions that can be making her back sore. So what do you do with negative emotions if you want to overcome them or not be at their mercy because your life is being spoiled by them? How do we get our emotions under control? And this is where the self-education of the reader comes into play. You may have read a blog post or a book or seen something on a website that gives a few ideas on how to control our emotions. So you might be able to talk about a couple of examples that the questioner can try, right? Or maybe it happened to you, right, that you had a time when your emotions controlled you. So you can tell a story of your own experience in dealing with emotion controlling you. And the questioner can relate to it. So they have something real to consider later after the reading, and that's going to help them reach a conclusion about what to do or come to some kind of realization about what's going on, and that gives them a solution to their situation. We can also think, okay, the first card is the Queen of Cups, and cups can represent love, right? So being reversed, it can be that the questioner isn't getting enough love or hasn't been getting enough love or feels unloved and unappreciated. Queen of Cups reversed. So again, the reader can say, okay, do you feel unloved? Do you feel unappreciated? And the person can say yes or no. And if they say yes, you're looking at the card and saying, cups can be loved, but it's upside down. And this can indicate feeling unloved. So you can talk about what to do if or when you feel unloved. So maybe you talk about finding new people who will appreciate you, or changing your reaction to the people around you. Because it's easy to misinterpret what's going on, because people can act in a certain way and you look at their behavior and think they don't appreciate me, but really they're distracted, right? They've got a problem of their own and they're trying to survive. So it's not that they don't appreciate you, it's just that they don't have spare time or energy at the moment. So in a reading, if you give the meaning of the card or go straight to the meaning of the card, the question may not get it, or they may misunderstand what you're saying, or they may argue in their own mind with what you're saying because they took it the wrong way. So you can say, it's important to control your emotions, and they think, you're insulting me. What makes you think that I can't control my emotions? Or maybe they think, okay, I'm not really the emotional type, so what you're saying is all very well, but it doesn't apply to me. Right? That's if you start with the meaning, start with, okay. Whereas if you go step by step through your reasoning and your explanation, so cups can mean this, the Queen can point out this factor, and it's reversed, so that can mean this. So as you go step by step through what you're coming up with, the person is probably, I think, going to relate better or relate more easily to the conclusion that you reach. Cups is this, the Queen is this, it's reversed, it's this. So it looks like your emotions are controlling you. And they can see how and why you're saying what you're saying, and they're probably going to agree with you more easily. They can follow along, and they can make sense of the different stages that you unfold for them. So they may, even if they come to a different conclusion or a different destination, that's okay. They're going to see the point of it, and they're going to get something out of the reading. Okay, that was something about a health reading. There'll be something new next week. I'm thinking about a Celtic cross that a couple of people have asked about, though maybe not. So if you have comments or requests, leave them down below. I've also been adding more to the tarotbook.com. I haven't put it out on the website yet, but excuse me. I'm going to be launching a new site for the tarot course, so you can watch it online and download videos and so on. And there's going to be new material for people who already bought the course, so they can log in and watch as well. That was it. Have a good week, and I'll see you in a few days. Okay, bye-bye.